Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to another live press conference with Grandmaster Atalik, who will comment today games from the 9th round. He has chosen two games, a draw between Alexandra Kosteniuk and Anna Muzychuk, and a win of Monika Sochko against Valentina Gunina. So what? I give you the word.
I have the word
yes.
For the marvelous draw, the hard-fought draw, very interesting game, maybe the most interesting game of the whole tournament. We will go through it. So white is Kosteniuk, black is Muzychuk. So one is one of the highest rated women in the world, the other one is former world champion, and they are very well known. Interesting matchup. And they started the game as a Ruy Lopez. You know, for a while when I was a kid, everybody used to play Ruy Lopez. One can say, like, why Ruy Lopez? Why not Gioco Piano? Why not Italian game? After all, I placed my bishop in a better diagonal, which looks more logical to the eye of the amateur. But on the other hand, you know, in many times, let's say for instance, the typical line is one of these branches that is in any other opening. White tries to build up the center, actually has built it up, but then comes d5, which sort of more or less equalizes for black. So the secret of Ruy Lopez in some way that it really helps white to build up the center. It is not like we all know from our earlier years in chess that, you know, just we even do not threaten the pawn. We even don't threaten the pawn, even a move like a6, you know, just says like you can't take the pawn. People who played exchange Ruy Lopez, obviously like Fischer, like Lasker, they played with other aim. But then comes interesting issue. If we don't go for exchange Ruy Lopez, which is an alternative, exchange Spanish. We say Spanish because Ruy Lopez, as you know, was a Spanish priest. Here, usually we play d4 and we divide the board into two, on which, on the king side, we practically a pawn up. On the other side, these pawns are a little bit handicapped. And but something controversial comes into mind. So we want to build up the center with this move order. But actually, when we try to do this, we jeopardize the center. So black can take knight takes e4. First things coming into mind is rook e1, just like this position, which may come from the other move order without a6. Here it makes more sense for white that takes the pawn back. But in this position, with the inclusion of a6 bishop a4, it is to black's advantage because he gets two bishops out of the opening. So now comes the main issue. So knight e4, could it be taken, couldn't it be taken? Well, once it is taken, d4, in both cases probably, is the move. And here, acceptance for of the second pawn is quite dangerous for black, because E line, the knight is pinned. There is the second pin from a4 to e8 diagonal, and if Black wants to take the pawn, which is called the open Spanish. Black has to continue after d4 in a special way, in which, or with which, he gives back the pawn. So this is the opening called open Spanish. Tarrasch, who was, one of the first real teachers of the game, he liked this one because it's very dynamic. There is one drawback that the pawn structure, a6, b5, c7, d5, and the advanced pawn e5 on the other side gives white, or it's believed that it is given white, more possibilities. That's why still today, or in every time, many other variations of Ruy Lopez they were considered to be better than this one. Better than, on an academical level. But people played it like Victor Korchnoi. He played it against Karpov in all 3 matches they had. It was the only opening he kept against Karpov. He was switching French in the first match in '74. He played more French. And in the last match in 1982, I think he even didn't play French. It's very difficult to recall who did what in some way, but so this is with this opening. I myself played quite a lot this system. Like Tarrasch, I believed that activity would have compensated, the structural deficit. Structural deficit not in numbers but in quality. Here, Kosteniuk's choice is very interesting. We will return to that, but this move, knight bd2, was for a while enjoying some popularity. Then they didn't shy away with knight c5, which is another line. They started to play more bishop e7. Coming back into the normal lines. And absolutely black, in my opinion, black shouldn't be afraid of such structures because the game gets very tactical. ef6, knight f6 back. For a while, black had problems with rook e1. But these days I see that now black really wants to push d4. This is considered not to be terrible for black. It looks terrible. It really looks terrible because if white can play, some couple of more moves, preventing c5, this is a very bad scenario for black. But black has means of either sacrificing the pawn now and coming rook c8, or even playing himself rook c8, and after rook ec3, sacrificing the pawn. It's believed that black has enough play. If we try to prevent it, now for instance bishop d5 is impossible, and then d4 is lost. Nobody wants to play with such a rook. In my opinion, slightly under danger. Still, black can play c5 and maybe c6 here. So let's go back. This decreased the popularity of knight bd2 line these days. Otherwise, every second person was playing knight bd2. Some were playing bishop e3, which is also theoretically one of the top-notch lines. But coming back, let's say like the most logical, one of the most logical lines to play c3 here, and after bishop c5, okay, knight bd2 is one line, which is not so dangerous, but I always found nasty Andrei Sokolov's queen d3. That white wants to play bishop e3 and knight bd2 or knight bd2. I had a very wavy game, just like in one of these European championships with the Croatian Grandmaster Palace, which ended up as a draw. Everybody was winning at some moment and both couldn't qualify, which is the good result for both or bad result for both. In this, next round we will see such encounters. Very famous was also for Serbians that in 1990 Manila, Branko Damjanovic white against Lubomir Ljubojevic black. Incredible game, a lot of sacrifices and everything, big time trouble, draw, both do not qualify. Happens. But coming to our open Ruy Lopez days, open Spanish days, Kosteniuk's choice queen e2 looks really dangerous for black because white will operate on the D line where the rook will face the queen. The problem, like many of these forced lines, black has a real map of continuing in the game. That's why many people really, they thought like, oh, you play queen e2. I mean, you want to draw? Because this is so well analyzed, many of these lines, they peter out to draw. And let's see, so bishop e7, the best move, doesn't care. Black continues with the development. Now, c3 looks good, but c3, queen d7, then rook a d8, black at some moment will play knight c5, bishop g4, and you cannot really get advantage of this. Now comes the best looking move order, and black played the best line. Queen d7, knight c3 is believed to give white slight advantage. Even Fischer has played it once. I played in one of the Netanya tournaments. Now black played bishop c5, bishop e3, exchange, queen b8, with a big threat, queen takes b2. That's why bishop takes d5 may lose more things at the end because of the vulnerable rook on a1. Okay, then bishop b3. Once again, I remember that 1974 match of theirs, Hübner with Korchnoi. Korchnoi, I believe, played queen b6 and he was worse. And probably he would try it against Turkpakov and won, despite of the fact that he was worse. But I mean, queen b6, either you play queen e2, either you exchange and play any move, knight a3. White is slightly better. Because of the thing that we have spoken, that the pawn structure is a little bit, it looks like Swiss cheese, yeah, that you have b5, d5. It's difficult to handle. You have to really play very exact. So comes the theoretical move, knight a5. I had myself a game with Goloschapov back in time. Okay, he played knight bd2, I played queen a7. We exchanged everything due to theory, and I don't know, the game ended up as a draw, nothing to write home about. Here, Kosteniuk's choice is a little bit rare. And really, when they were playing it, I was not so sure about what was happening. Later I checked my notes. I couldn't simply remember, if this move exists or what to do after this move. I mean, it's not terribly dangerous, but it is dangerous. I mean, knight bd2, queen a7, show it, takes almost everything out of the position. Just I can show you my game with Goloschapov, Grandmaster Goloschapov. I don't know, simply he thought maybe this is better. Actually, I played once with Timman. He ended up being first in the tournament. I shared the second place, and he really just wanted to take a day off. He wanted to make a draw. And somewhere in, around those moves he offered it, and really black cannot do much. This is a deficiency with this defense, and if white plays queen e2, many times black has to pull out the theory to achieve the equality, and equality and draw. Sometimes the difference is very, very small, very tiny. So here we can talk. I mean, we can talk about a draw. It's not anymore, in my opinion. It's like a last important move. And my game, due to some little bit more, let's say, adventures, ended up as a draw. But white had, nor black had any chances. Massive exchanges. Why Kosteniuk has chosen the line? We have seen her good preparation, against with black against Giria, if I am not mistaken. Well, she looked at many different things. Probably she considered the position being very safe for white, and she can push it. There is always this approach that people like Botvinnik brought to chess to force to get very sharp lines with black and to choose lines, with white in which you are safe, but your opponent still has to do a couple of exact moves. Knight d4, which is not a novelty, it had been played before, came c5 and exchange on e6. And when I looked at my notes, I was in favor of queen b6 in this position, which had been also played. It's a taste. I mean, I still think that if I would have this position, if I would have played open Spanish, and if somebody goes into this position, first of all, I don't know what to do, because for many people, during the game, you may be annoyed to lose, or you may be annoyed to draw the game before it starts. But c5 gave some
now you have some spare ones.
Yeah, promoted the wrong way. Some small edge for white, and Muzychuk is a good practical player. Here black shouldn't panic. Panicky move is like b takes a2, queen takes c4, a takes b1, and then white will be better. Just will have some extra pawn. Still with the white's queen side underdeveloped, black launched a counter-attack. This way it is sure that black will be a pawn down, this way or another. For instance, e takes d5, e6 is very nasty. Because if I protect that pawn laterally, also I attack to a6. It's not like the pawn falls at once after rook e8, rook c6, what I mean. And knight takes d5, it's very difficult to win this game with white, but pawn is a pawn. We should remember, I mean, every time I enter the tournament hall, first of all I remember famous scene from the movie Blues Brothers. I don't know if everybody, did you watch it? There is this French restaurant scene where John Belushi, he wants to do something bad and looks at this nice family dining, that says, how much for the woman, how much for the woman? You remembered it, yeah? But a little bit degrading, you know, like, and when Fischer said, like, I can offer a knight to the best woman in the world, Tal said, Fischer is Fischer, but a knight is a knight. And now this is the similar thing. I mean, here inside, they play very well. There is no difference between women and men in chess, and if we summon up Polgar here, yeah, we will see even better action maybe. But a pawn is a pawn. Also, and then after knight takes d5, okay, the game continues. White protects everything. Still some chances that possibly she plays like knight d2. And I really like how Muzychuk attacked or defended in this position. These things are very difficult to accomplish in chess. And I mean, she had a sloppy start, but now you know, she's playing very well in the tournament. So is Kosteniuk. I mean, Huang, absolutely brilliant. There's nothing could be said. You know, just when somebody sits there and doesn't make any mistakes. Anybody who won tournaments in life, you know, this is one of the important things. You don't make big mistakes in the tournament. You don't lose games in opens, and you win. It's just, but it's very difficult to accomplish. And here, she didn't care. She continued with her attack. Only this position, a little bit Black's choice could be criticized. You know, when you attack, you also get pumped, you know, like psychologically, so you want to continue with the attack. And maybe e takes d5 was a better choice. Because when she did rook f2, things start rolling in a very concrete way. I mean, rook takes g2 is really dangerous now. After king h1, I mean, your knight and rook are stuck together. And she has chosen knight takes d5, rook takes a6, rook e2. White played rook takes e6. It's bad news for tactical geniuses, you know, like rook takes g2, king takes g2, knight f4. And this position may become lost. So she really couldn't do it this way. That the king's contribution to the game, you know, becomes very significant, yeah, in this particular situation. So she came instead of this.
Rook is on e6. She took the pawn on e6, right?
Just like this, and she came knight f4 directly. Yeah. And after rook d6 taken here, she again dropped the pawn, prevented the advance. And white has consolidated. Very important in such positions. Finally, now you see that white has zero risk of losing the game. Even if she loses all three pawns, some of these end games she may run away with it. So then, why not to try? This is the type of position. I would say, like, Kosteniuk had a very good game plan. These days, you know, you don't win by only overwhelming your opponent. It's also quite impossible to overwhelm someone in this level. So once she has seen Muzychuk's new defense, you know, open relapes, she went for a line in which, you know, Black still has to prove the equality. But after rook f1, let's see how it comes. Comes first of all this part that White tries to give the pawn and tries to say, let's play a rook endgame. Sorry, let's play a knight endgame. a knight ending in which I will have some chances despite of the fact that my pawn, my double pawns, b3 and b2, I am not so sure if it will win, but let's play it. Black says, no, I don't take this. I offer you a rook ending in which you will not do anything. In such positions, rook end games are usually drawn. White says, well,
Let's play a little while.
no, she doesn't say, she says like, whatever you do,
I'm keeping my knight.
here comes the knight's endgame. This is the funny part of the game. It's like, what Jean-Jacques Rousseau has written, contra social. Like this, now we got a social contract, we just like somehow, there is